LCCI. 24 states attracted zero foreign investment in 2021. Nigeria's FDI dropped by $332 million, according to the Bureau of Statistics. Insecurity scaring away investors. That's according to Benue and Zamfara. The nation heading towards multiple chaos. That's according to JNI. And photographs there on the front page show President Muhammadu Buhari praying for peace and justice in the country in Abuja yesterday as part of the Ramadan fast. After IG's visit, that's the next headline, bandits abduct 22 along Abuja Kaduna Expressway. After IG's visit, bandits abduct 22 along Abuja Kaduna Expressway. Judgment barring me from public office fraudulent, Anduaka tells court. Explosive mines killed 789 civilians in Northeast. And that's according to the UN. Brain drain. Nigeria has 315,426 doctor deficit, says NMA. Travelers panic as terrorists sow sorrow, tears, and blood on Kaduna roads and rails. 4 Zamfara commissioners' guests killed while breaking fast.
Yeah. All right. The Nation newspaper. Let's turn to the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate, Why I Want to Be in the Senate by Oshomole. That's on page 6. Bandits abduct 22 on Abuja Kaduna Highway. Page 29. JNI slams federal government over worsening insecurity. Find that on page 6. Extradition. Malami cautions court against bail for Kyari. That's on page 28. Now, the lead story on the Nation. 2023 presidential ticket splits PDP aspirants into 3 camps. There are the ones for pro-consensus, ones for power shift, and of course, free contest proponents. All right. Below the photo story, there we have a train attack. 7 passengers still missing, says NRC. That's the Nigerian Railway Corporation. 1.2 million at risk of explosive mines in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe on page 27. Now, let's go to leadership newspaper very quickly. Above the nameplate, MFL not behind branded campaign vehicles, APC stakeholders. That's on page 9. Niger governor mourns leadership founder's mother. All right. Southern PDP governors reject northern presidential aspirants. Autumn committee decides on zoning today. That's on page 7. Take battle to terrorist enclaves, JNI tells federal government. SIM-NIN linkage. After many deadlines, 73 million unlinked subscribers barred from making calls. It has 3 riders. Nigeria has 303.6 million connected lines, 198 active lines, 125 million linked lines. Experts fear revenue losses in telecom sector. Rising insecurity sign the SIM-NIN linkage exercise has failed. Of course, they're saying that rising insecurity is a sign that SIM-NIN linkage exercise has failed. That's on page 4. Soludo joins prayer to mark end of sit-at-home in Anambra. Zamfara bandits kill retired DIG staff's son, 3 others, on pages 4 and 8. Now let's bring in Bayo.
Thank you, Kylian. Let's start with the story about kidnapping on the Kaduna-Abuja highway. It may be recalled that the Inspector General of Police had visited the Kaduna-Abuja highway to reinforce the presence of security on the highway and to ensure that the highway is safe. But that reported incident was not on the highway. It was on one of the villages around Jere along the Kaduna-Abuja highway. In fact, the criminals, some of them were donning military fatigue and they went from house to house within the villages and raided. That is where they took up 13 persons and took it away. The village was in the area between the border between the FCT, Niger State, and Kaduna State. Well, you see, sometimes when you tolerate criminals, the tendency is that a day will come when your own days will be numbered with them. there have been instances and reports that some of the villages there knew some of these criminals. The criminals come on market days and mingle with the people freely there. But the people were either afraid and they knew some of these criminals and very reluctant to spill the beans about them. Now, the chicken have come home, the criminal chickens have come home to roost, and now they are paying the price. And therefore, the lessons here is that there's no covering up with criminals. When the time comes, they will come for you. Now, going to other encouraging stories, however, 3 siblings, children of the same parents, who are very minor children, who were reported missing at Kabusa, for after 13 days, were found at another suburb of Kaduna at Wuye. The police found the 3 children roaming about, disheveled in Wuye area, and they were taken in. And the DPO remembered that there had been an announcement about 3 children of the same parent missing from Wuye. So they called the DPO Wuye, and he confirmed. So they called the father, and the father said, since the children went missing, he and his wife have not slept for 1 hour any day. And so when they called him, he rushed there and found that, yes, the 3 children were his children. He found out that they were his children. I think the names are Marvelous, Rebirth, and Alex. And
where were they found? Is it in Kaduna State or
no,
in Abuja?
in the same FCT.
Yeah, because you said Kaduna earlier.
You said Kaduna, yes,
I was wondering.
because Wuye
Kabusa is a
Kabusa,
suburb. It's a
and
suburb.
they were found in Wuye.
Wuye is
Wuye
also,
is where you have the Federal Ministry of Works.
no, that's Babushi.
Okay,
where we have
That's
the finance quarters.
Yeah, that's
Ministry of
Wuye.
Finance quarters.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
Ministry of
right.
Finance quarters.
It's right on the stadium. If you're going towards the stadium,
Stadium, okay.
just by
People will be
Arab
wondering
contractors, that's where
what may have happened to the children. 13 days.
13 days. Will be 2 weeks exactly today when they went missing. And I would have thought that maybe the police and the parents will sit together and debrief the children.
Of course, they will have to do that.
Yes.
They will have to also undergo counseling, and we should never lose faith. It's also possible that their prayers worked and their kidnappers then decided to release the children. Sometimes you hear all kinds of tales, even from persons who have survived the abduction, that the kidnappers will sometimes be arguing amongst themselves, and that they are told, I don't want to repeat this on air, that, oh, this person's head is not good for this, it's not good for whatever purpose they want
That's
to.
what happens because
Yes.
most of them are fetish, you know.
Yes, precisely.
And when they carry out their consultations, we say, look, don't deal
Well,
with
will
this
not
spirit.
serve
Don't-
their purpose.
If you
Precisely.
do that, you will lose your life, you know. And they always believe in that. So perhaps that may have happened in this case.
A similar incident also happened. This was passengers who were traveling on a 14-seater bus, and this was between Ugwashiku, and they were just kidnapped by kidnappers and led into the bush. But somehow the commissioner of police left instruction for the DPO, Mohammed Naala, and he and his men went after them in the bush, and luck was on their side. They were able to neutralize one of the kidnappers and rescue the 13 passengers on the bus unharmed. And they are now currently combing the bushes for the kidnappers.
You know, Gwashuku, that's in Delta State.
Yes, Delta State, yes. And talking about Charles Soludo, governor of Anambra State, yesterday enjoined in the Anambra to observe a one-day prayer to counter the evil effects of every Monday sit at home. He asked those terrorizing the state to let the state be. Prayers that he enjoyed was held with him attending at Ecolobia Catholic Church. He appealed to those who are making the state ungovernable, that they are harming the economy of the state and they should let the state be.
I think in that regard, I would have expected Soludo to also, do the same thing. In fact, to consult other governors of the Southeast. Because if you stop sit at home in Anambra, that does not mean to stop in Enugu, Ebonyi, Imo, or Abia State. So what you ought to have done was to consult with the other governors so they can sit together. If there was a meeting with the reps of the so-called non-government or anybody, you do it together. Anambra cannot just be free from sit at home, philosophy, and then leave out the other states of the southeast of Nigeria. So it may not work.
Charity, they say, begins at home, but should not end there. Maybe
Well, maybe
having started
because
from Anambra to-
even yesterday, it was observed in Anambra State. Statue was observed in Anambra State. Of course.
I sometimes when you think of what is happening, how do we now expect, for instance, the name-SIM linkage to facilitate the work of the security agents? Because usually when persons are abducted and the kidnap is for ransom, they make contact with the families. And if you are making contact, your phone, of course, has an ID. And that ID will also include the registered name, unless the registration was simply perfunctory. So we do hope that going forward, the name-SIM linkage will become a handy tool for the security agents, because it's simply traumatizing to imagine the season we have found ourselves in by all kinds of criminal elements. People are traveling on the highway. We do know that in years past, they could be waylaid by armed robbers, dispossessed of
their phones.
of their possessions, and sometimes you had fatalities. But now this is almost an industrial scale kidnapping.
People don't talk
People are
about
traveling
armed
in
robbery anymore.
Yeah,
It's
people
now
are traveling. You stop the bus and then take out all the passengers, shepherd them into the so-called forest. I don't know where are these forests, by the way. I'm just wondering, because if you're talking about the rainforest bed, you can know where forests are. But I think these are just simple hideouts, that we have failed to destroy.
Well, when you say forest, sometimes you have an overgrown area, because when you go to the savannah area, we don't have the kind of forest you have there. It's not the kind of evergreen rainforest where you have thick thorny bushes. No, it is overgrown area where criminals can hide along the highway and spring surprises. I'm talking about telephones. These days, their strategy is that because they fear that their phone numbers could be tracked, when they kidnap people, they seize the phones of the kidnappers and they use the phones of the persons they have kidnapped to contact their families. As at yesterday, the Ministry of Communication was indicating that so far 303.6 million of telephones are connected in Nigeria. And with the SIM exercise that was done, they have presently have 125 million connected. And now the alarm is on. But very soon, all the phones that are not linked within the SIM and the NIN are going to be delinked, and therefore they will not be able to actually make use of them.
What about the underage, those between 10, 14 or 15 or 16 years, who are not allowed to do the same, the name, who say that you are still under, exactly. So how would that happen? Some people connect their children using phones, so some of them who are in schools and all that. So it will also affect such a, Nigerian. So what would they do on the age children?
But like you have pointed out, the only safety valve there is perhaps they will have to use the link with their parents' NIN number as an adjunct.
That's right. That should have. Bayo, in the absence of any other thing, we would like to appreciate you for being around this morning.
Thank you.
That is the subject matter of the brain drain of medical doctors and other health personnel. This has been going on since the mid-80s, following the introduction of the structural adjustment program, when the Naira began its fall. The value of the Naira, unless you fix the macroeconomic indices, this brain drain is going to continue. How much can you pay, and what is the parity of your pay to what they would earn if they went abroad. So if you don't fix, because if you recall, before September 1986, the exchange rate was in some cases 65 kobo to the US dollar. And then in September, it became 3 to 1, 3 naira to 1 US dollar. And ever since, it has not looked back.
Went haywire.
It just went haywire, and you can see what it is like today. Nobody even talks about the official rate except for those who want to transact business at that level. The so-called parallel market rate, 600 or something, I believe, or 500 or something. I don't know how much it is. And a person would ask himself, look, what do I do? And how much can the Nigerian environment pay you if you were working here? I think these are the things to fix, and it is virtually for everybody. Once you fix that, then things will. Well, it means, of course, that for you to fix it, one, because if you recall, we killed our economy from 1986.
Yes.
If you are not producing, if you are not, because we have been deindustrializing.
The key argument, the value of our exports.
I'm sorry, Bayo. I'm sorry, because some of these issues one will recall vividly. Oh, they said, export, and you have a singular product ending you forex, which is oil. And the vagaries are beyond your control.
And there are other potential export products.
That's right. So,
okay, but I would like to thank you for
the
analysis today. We hope to see you again tomorrow for more on newspaper review. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with formalizing the informal petroleum sector.
As the world advances, Samuel Adegboyega University, Ogwa, Edo State, is poised to deliver world-class education rooted in strong academic traditions. In the colleges of law, basic and applied sciences, humanities, management and social sciences, Samuel Adegboyega University is building the next generation of leaders. Hurry now for 2021-2022 undergraduate and postgraduate admissions into any of our NUC fully accredited programs. Secure admission today in one of the fastest growing private universities in Africa. Also note that the university runs diploma, JUPEB, part-time and tuition-free programs. For more information, visit www.sau.edu.ng or call 0705 079 1226. Samuel Adegboyega University, to nurture for discipline and excellence.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youth, let's build our nation together.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively with Professor Umar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC.
We have unveiled the 622 as a toll-free line through which consumers can be able to lodge their complaints. And we have introduced the 112 as a national emergency number.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. Candidates who are interested in gaining admission into NTA Television College Jos for the 2021-2022 two-year National Innovation Diploma Program are to apply for admission through the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAM). The courses available for application include film and television production, broadcast journalism, and television engineering technology. Such candidates must have a minimum of 5 O-level credits in relevant subjects including English language and mathematics. For more information, please contact NTA Television College, Jos, or the marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. Registrar, Announcer. As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within, and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
And to begin our discussion on the subject matter, let's take this background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Over the years, the activities of illegal refiners in the oil and gas sector have affected the country's daily output and production of oil, hence reducing the income of the country. The impact of these activities, especially in the host communities of Niger Delta, can be felt and seen in areas of polluted air, contaminated environment, degraded forest, biodiversity loss, and high atmospheric temperatures. One major problem the country has been battling with over the years is the pipeline vandalism by these illegal refiners, who can go to any length to ensure their illegal businesses continue unabated. Worried by the activities of informal sector, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike stormed the forest of some local government areas where he uncovered some crude oil illegally refining sites whose activities have caused environmental challenges in the state. The Office of the Presidential Amnesty Program reveals that Nigeria loses 53 million barrels of oil worth $2 billion to illegal refiners, which is being said to be quite dangerous and alarming, and called for urgent and systematic steps to be taken to contain the effects of informal crude oil refining. As part of solutions to the challenge of illegal oil refineries in the country, some key players stressed the need to scale up activities of the modular artisanal refineries in the Niger Delta region for more economic benefit to the country. And these include subsidization of modular artisanal refinery license by 70% to allow artisanal operators to acquire these licenses. Analysts believe this will formalize and integrate artisanal crude oil refining activities and improve output, thereby ensuring availability of the products in the country. Some of the questions on the lips of many is whether the formalization will put an end to the incessant fuel scarcity in the country. What effect will this have in strengthening the Nigerian oil sector? These are some questions guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering shortly.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that backgrounder. We have guests with us in the studios here and another joining us via Zoom. Let's welcome again distinguished Senator Ita Enang. He's the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs. Senator Enang, we are glad to wake you up again this morning, being part of Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. We also have in the studios regular guests on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Timothy Okon, a petroleum economist and managing partner, Tenno Energy Resources. Dr. Okon, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
And we have joining us via Zoom from Ephraim, Professor Akpofure Rumikum. I hope I got that correctly. Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Petroleum Resources, Ephraim in Delta State. Good morning, sir, and welcome. My apologies if I mispronounce your name.
Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Professor Akpofure Remruka, I believe, we're glad we're glad to have you with us on the program. Let's begin the conversation with you. We're here this morning talking about what has now been identified as the informal sector in the petroleum industry, namely the preponderance of artisanal refiners. How much of this, from your knowledge, is prevalent in the oil producing states or communities around the country?
Hello? I didn't get that question very well.
Okay, you have your earpiece on, or your speaker is loud enough for you to hear us. Namely, all right, my question is, what do you know from your findings about the preponderance of artisanal refiners, or those we now call operators in the informal sector of the petroleum industry?
If you can hear me, it's very clear to us. If you can hear me, it's very clear to Nigerians. There are the formal sector, which is recognized by government, and the informal sector, which is operated by the Artisanal Refiners Association of Nigeria, also informal. These are the two main operators in terms of the production of petroleum products to Nigerians as it is today.
Well, Professor Akpofure, we're going to cut away from you and get our engineers to help you sort out issues about the framing of your face and other issues related to your participation in this conversation. Professor Akpofure, we'll get back to you in the course of this discussion. Now, back to the studios. Dr. Timothy Okon, let's get your take on this. And by the way, I mean, just to also indicate that Dr. Timothy Okon was a group general manager at the NNPC. Dr. Timothy Okon, what do we know about the informal sector in the petroleum industry?
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I'll start with saying that artisanal refining is distinct from modular refineries, and I want to make that very clear. One is a licensed activity that has scale, and it's there are prescribed standards, etc. Artisanal, I do not know. I never knew we had the Artisanal Refineries Association of Nigeria, but I've just heard that today. But there are three characteristics of artisanal refining, at least in my assessment of it. The first is that we are not sure about the source of the crude because there is no way in which the crude is purchased, and certainly so in artisanal refining, it's basically you're having crude sources that are not clearly known and identified and all that. The second is that you have a distillation, more or less a distillation unit that basically just heats up crude. I am told that there is increasing sophistication, the use of generators and things like that. But first, the source of the crude. Secondly, the manner in which the operations take place leads to pollution. And we need to know that crude is a pollutant. It is not something you mix willy-nilly, and clearly the black suit you have in Port Harcourt and all of this, the clip that was shown before this, the interview itself, those are issues that we must tackle. That is not how the oil business is run. The third thing about artisanal refinery, third characteristic, is simply the product quality. Okay, they do not meet any known international standards. So the ASTM standards for whether it's diesel or PMS or whatever it is that you are producing. There are certain standards. Those standards are not met. So those are the three characteristics with artisanal refining. So it's basically a no-no. However, there is a pathway to going to modular refining. Modular refineries were created from a policy perspective, and the policy is essentially to ensure that you have smaller scale refineries. And those, I think there are about three now in the country. I think Niger Delta Petroleum runs one, Walter Smith runs the other. I think there is another one that is either been completed or is nearing completion. There is a pathway for migrating artisanal refinery to the modular. And I do know that there's even financing that can be available through NCDMB, etc., that for these refineries. So what is the correct approach, in my view, is simply that these people that are engaged in the artisanal migrate to that pathway where they are buying crude and of course processing it according to the standards that are required and are subject to inspection and subject to all the environmental controls and rules. If not, we will all destroy the Niger Delta even before the oil finishes. So I think that is in the best interest of the Niger. Initial comments on.
All right, Dr. Okon, I'd like to remain with you because you raised some pertinent points there. One has to do with the standards and quality of what comes out from artisanal refining. We also indeed know that their end products are also being patronized by construction companies and other users of end product of petroleum products. So the issue of quality, perhaps you are more of a professional, but some people are patronizing these artisanal miners. And our concern this morning is on formalization. Now, you said it's a stepping stone, towards having modular. What should be the process of formalizing this group of Nigerians who have applied their own technology, in refining?
No, I didn't say it's a stepping stone to modular. I say they can migrate. I would say you can directly go and ask for if there's sophistication, as I'm being told that artisanal refineries have great sophistication, they are adopting technology, then you just go to the authority and you get a license, right? So it's the step to getting a license is not through cooking oil, some obscure part of the Niger Delta, because it's environmentally damaging. So it is not a stepping stone. It's simply that if you have a level of sophistication to run a refining process, okay, then you go and get a modular refinery license to do so. I think that's really what. So the formalization is that you adhere to the rules. I think the authority would have rules that that this is a refinery, this is the capacity you want, and these are the equipment you're going to bring in. They give you a permission to construct, and then finally a license to operate the refinery. That's the process. It's open, it's established, and we welcome people to be involved in that activity. The final step in it was with the PIA now, where, of course, subsidies have been removed. Then you can have an economically valuable business to do.
Well, Dr. Timothy Okon, I'm sure that some would say that you're speaking from the formal side of the petroleum industry, and which is understandable. But there are others who have also acknowledged and recognized that you have a plenitude of these operators in the informal sector with the kind of consequences you've talked about to the environment and questions around standards. And the issue then is, should we assume that these informal operators do not exist? Senator Itayanak.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what my brother has contributed, and like rightly commented, is speaking as an operator from the not an operator, as from the formal sector of the economy. There is the law, there is the constitution, and the law and the constitution operates when all is well. When you all is not well, the constitution entitles the president of a country or the government to adopt what is called state of emergency. And those steps, and when you are adopting state of emergency, that you must take those matters before the legislature. Lay it before them that this is the emergency and this is where we are. What do we do next? So in my opinion, where we are in the petroleum refining business, where we are in the energy sector in Nigeria today, is we are in a state of emergency. State of emergency instead of the economy, state of emergency in terms of the availability of funds to pay salaries, it's availability of funds to fund contract and fund projects and get the economy going. That is the state of emergency. And when you are run into this state of emergency, you have to look at other situations. One, there were the law, the constitution, and the Petroleum Act, as it were, when really outlawing the some of the operations that were going on at that time in the Niger Delta, outlawing the bearing of arms and making it illegal, all the activities that were going on. But what did the Yaradua administration do? It embarked on the amnesty program, because without it, you could not have had access to this crude, access to oil, access to the to operations. So where we are now in this petroleum or energy sector is that we do not have to suspend the law or the activities in the sector, but we have to acknowledge that in addition to the formal sector, which is regulated by the Petroleum Industries Act, there are other players there which are sought to be covered, but not yet are not covered. And yet, these are the persons contributing to the sustenance informally of the energy petroleum sector. And so you have to find a way of accommodating them for the purpose of the survival of the country and survival of the economy. Now, you are not inviting them. They're already in existence, and they're telling you, look, we are in existence. This is what we're doing. And you are indirectly, this person's and the formal sector is indirectly taking the product and output of these informal players. Like it's normally said, is just like hiding and taking it, and yet you call it the formal import. Now, I just believe that where we are is there is a state of emergency in the economy. We are losing crude. How do we come around and make sure that this crude that we are losing, that we get value for it by way of saying, look, this is as it were in the beginning. This is as the law says. Now, there is a new method now that we can't, not that we can't, but it's difficult to operate without engaging with these persons. This is the essence that we had the conference and the engagement that we've been having with these persons. And these persons came out. And let me appreciate the NTA for seeking to talk about formalizing the informal sector. Because formalizing them and taking ideas from the practitioners, from persons who are peripherally involved, and even from the government, which is the victim of what is happening, will bring is bringing a new thinking. Now, if you want to ask whether we should formalize or engage with these persons, go and ask the governors of the 36 states of the Federation how much they are able to take from the Federation account upon the loss of this crude through leakages, leakages that are coming, which are available, leakages which could be paid for, leakages which you have seen the pipes and the points from which these leakages are. And without engaging with these people, you'll still be damaging the environment. you can't have enough money from this to pay, to go into the federation account, which you can distribute to the 36 state governments. You won't have enough money. You are going to suspend many projects which we are using the money from oil to pay at the federal government level. Even at the state government level, you will not have money because the oil is not flowing through the pipe properly to go to where you ought to. And we are also going to be in debt default. Debt default in terms of the fact that most of the obligations we have to repay our loans comes from proceeds from oil. If those oils don't flow to get to where we ought to, and then it gets to be bought, we still have a problem. So it is a state of emergency. In a state of emergency, you suspend certain rate of actions until you are able to recover yourself. We said the other day that we're having a problem with terrorism. We are adopting unconventional approaches. So yes, I'm a lawyer. I know the law. I'm a legislator. I know the legislation. But where we are is that we have to adopt some unconventional methods to make the country survive. There can only be law, order, and governance when you are able to survive. And that is why I'm saying I agree that we must find appropriate method of formalizing the informal sector. I'm not saying it is right. I'm not saying crude is not lost. I'm not saying there's no theft. But where we are now is that we must adopt what is practically practicable.
Yes, and going by what Dr. Okon said, that it's possible for those involved in that artisanal refining to get a license and, of course, and get themselves involved in modular refining and all of that. And from what I've said, it's not that easy. Something has to be done, especially with the Petroleum Act and all of that, to be able to accommodate these individuals. And I've had a course to interact with them in one of your conferences, and to be honest with you, they are sophisticated. They are knowledgeable in this area. There are no two ways about it. And they have different methods of refining. And they are even export what they refine to other countries of this world. So talking about perhaps quality or standard may not be there. They brought the products themselves. They will show you the products, the quality of the products, the difference between the good quality and the bad quality. Okay. So let's go to Professor.
Yeah, I know we want to. Dr.
He wanted to say something.
Yeah, because you're referring to something that we haven't talked about, which is the economics of scale, right? You can do all that you're saying they are doing because this thing is stolen crude. There is no cost to it other than the cost of tapping and so on and so forth. It is somebody's crude. It's something that someone has spent time to extract from the surface and put into a pipe. So you are taking that. You see, the notion that somehow there is a value addition when someone has done the work and is supposed to pay taxes, but is not paying tax. So you must understand that entire value chain is subtracted from the value of the crude that somebody else has produced, which you are subjecting to royalty, etc. But he is the one who is out of pocket. And this formalizing the informal, it sounds very, what shall I say, it's catchy, but you need to understand the economic impact. That economic impact is not accretional. In other words, you are not adding value. You are taking away. So, and that is the point. The economies of scale, if they were buying the crude and producing, it would not be economic because they won't be able to sell to the construction companies you claim they are selling to. So you must understand that value chain for what it is. Mm-hmm. It is one in which you are taking something that belongs to someone else, okay, and then selling it, and you want to formalize that sort of a business, then we might as well...
Exactly. I think that from what Senator Itainak said, that if it is virtually formalized. They will not have a proper access to crude oil, pay for it, refine it. The important thing here is that we are
Okay,
lacking.
that is, you go then and you buy the crude from those who produce it.
Exactly.
Because that is the upstream.
That is
Yes.
when
Uh-huh.
that is when they must have
Yes.
been formalized. They can now have access to crude oil
Yes.
without stealing it. They buy it. The issue is that we have shortage of these products in the country. What we have is not satisfying local consumption. That is not the basic issue here.
No, that's a market thing. It's a supply and demand
Exactly.
situation,
But
which if you allow prices to grow, you sort out
But
the
you seem to be importing a greater percentage of what we require locally here, which is the anomaly we're talking about. Well, let's bring in Professor Uruke here. At the initial time, we were unable to get you properly connected, right? And now I'm sure you have listened to the other guests. Let's also get to know what you know and understand about artisanal mining, artisanal refining. You have indeed told us that we have Artisanal Refining Association of Nigeria. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, these are a group of youths who are into using the technology of producing what we know as kankai in the Niger Delta. They use the technology of producing kankai to separate the complex mixture of crude. They work together to target what is known as the diesel, popularly called diesel. Those are what we call the domestic miners. They call themselves the domestic miners. They get crude from the suppliers. They are not the ones who own the crude. They buy crude from suppliers. The suppliers are the people who have, this is another group of people who have a direct contact with the pipeline or with the source of crude. That is why you can find out that some of these mining, the illegal sites, these crude oil sites are very far from any petroleum pipeline or petroleum product pipeline. They are located very far from, so they expect their suppliers to bring their products to them, and they pay. They pay for them. And after that, they refine using that old technology of separating binary mixture. Binary mixture of that of kankai, which has only alcohol and water. Based on that technology, they are able to separate the other products but target only the crude, the diesel, and abandon every other product in the refinery process. That is exactly the fundamental issue. So when we talk about formalizing the informal sector, it's a complex process. It's a very complex process where both the suppliers of crude, the operators of this refineries, domestic refiners, have to be brought on the table. Government has to involve them. Then upscaling their crude methods to recognize other fractions that will come out from the petroleum refining, the crude oil refining. So these are some complexity, because if you formalize them and then you give them, you operate and then upscale their process to recognize other fractions, who will buy the crude and at what rate? Like what the petroleum economists just said, we need to look at the economic of scale. Will it be beneficial to them? Will it be beneficial to them? Some of these are some of the fundamental questions that we have to take up. What will prevent the suppliers from stopping their business? Because the suppliers of crude, they are also into business. The refiners of crude, they are also into business. We've all agreed that yes, they supply diesel. If you go to Port Harcourt today, you will see the long truck of tankers waiting to collect diesel from them, protected by the military. So the issues are very complex. When the suppliers stop supplying diesel crude, what do you do to incorporate them into this formal sector that we're talking about? The laws have to be looked into. The PI Act is there before us. So it's not just an issue of, yes, informal sector have been formalized and therefore they cannot be recognized. No, it goes beyond that. Where we are looking at upgrading their technology, which the Federal University of Petroleum Resources can provide. We can provide that. The other chains, other value chains also in the process can also be incorporated into it. Because the environmental issue is of great concern, especially when the military uses the method of destruction of these illegal sites. That is the issues of the fire that occur in the axis. The issue of fire of this and soot that declared the environment. So all these are issues that must be considered when we are looking at bringing them into the formal sector. Thank you.
Professor Akpofure, thank you very much for your contribution. Pretty clear now, except that I hope our viewers will recognize your face more clearly. We seem to be looking up like this. If you can sort that out, that would be great for us. Fantastic. A lot better now, a lot better. That's great. All right, Prof, let's still stay with you. What has given rise to the proliferation, if you may, of the artisanal refiners in the Niger Delta?
Unemployment, sir. Simply put, is unemployment. Unemployment among the youths looking for means of livelihood. They are doing it basically for economic reasons. They are aware of the death rate of these illegal refiners. They are aware. They know the head actors because some of them have lost their lives as a result of cutting of their nostrils with this suit. There are records of death of these operators, but they have thrown that to the wind. So it is for economic reasons they do it. So that is exactly when there's economic benefit, there will be proliferation. Today in Nigeria, there are people who now pick plastics anywhere, even in parties, because an economic value has been placed on that waste bottle. Once you have an economic factor placed on any material, the proliferation will definitely be there. So the proliferation of miners, of these refiners, is simply because it provides means of livelihood to them. So if you train them, if you pull them out, like what I said during the other forum, if you pull them out and give them the requisite training to be fitted into the formal sector, and the formal sector is to be able to accept them, they will stop. They are not happy doing it. So someone go and look at their skin. You will see rashes, skin infections all over their body. Take a trip to them and ask them one-on-one. They will tell you of the health hazards they are exposed to. But because there is no alternative, that is why they do it. If government can be sincere, look at them, bring them up, bring them to full Federal University of Petroleum Resources for training, so that they can be fitted into the formal sector. They will stop the business.
Professor Akpofure, we sometimes get the impression that refining petroleum products is almost like rocket science. And so when our refineries break down, they're called a complex. It will take years and years before we get the refineries back on stream. But from the processes that you have just described, I mean, like conversion of raffia palm into kain, that's ogogoro, that the colonialists called the illicit dry gin in those days, and then they were bringing in their London's or Gordon's dry gin. It looks like, if you may, again, the science of refining, at least for some of these products, isn't so complex after all. So why has it been difficult all along to apply, if you, again, this rudimentary process and then accommodate or otherwise eliminate the byproducts that would normally damage the environment.
You might agree with me that until a problem comes up, nobody thinks of an alternative. No, until a problem comes up, nobody thinks of improvement on ongoing process. The process of producing kankai is for a binary mixture. It's for a binary mixture. Now, if government was thinking of all the universities are also working in research to say, okay, how can we upscale? How can we upscale this binary mixture process to the complex mixture of crude? It is just by introducing only one component, that is the fractional distillation unit, into what they are doing. Just once you can incorporate that, then you are able to get more products from that refinery process, which is actually the principles of modular refinery. That is the simple principle of modular refinery. Modular refinery takes care of some other products that comes at a very low level, which is actually different from the conventional refinery. So all government need to do is to say, okay, these refiners, let us set up modular refineries. Let us upscale what they are doing to a modular refinery kind of system, and then let them buy the crude from NNPC or the source. Then make sure that even the syndicates, the high-level syndicates who are involved in crude oil theft, there are people who are involved in crude oil theft. There are organizations, there are syndicates. Their ship is in the high sea in the Niger Delta. There are vessels at the high sea in the Niger Delta. So this also supply them crude, which they take and sell illegally to those vessels. The government is aware of the presence of those vessels in the high sea. That is why we find out that there's a dwindling production of crude also. These are some of the dimensions we have to look into. There are a lot of complexity in the trade along the system. So when you say good, part of the suppliers to those syndicates at the high sea that are guided by the military, that are protected by the military. How do you close that gap also? So there are a lot of fundamental issues that government need to be sincere, and all because they are all involved in the chain. Let them come back on the right table and tell everybody that yes, this thing must stop. It's affecting our economy. It's not just how much crude oil does this motor refiners, these local refiners consume a day. How much? Talking of filling a vessel, of taking illegal. We are available. We are ready to do that, to upscale their local process to such that yes, other components can be recovered.
Well, really, Kingsley, the question you put to him is very apt, because over the years we've been hearing about turnaround maintenance, of refineries and what have you. To date, the 4 refineries we have in the country cannot refine optimal, meaning that the gap, that these not illegal refiners now, artisanal refiners that are filling is unbelievably huge, and that is why they have patronage in that area. I've had the experience of talking to them, actually, and in fact, they have information to give. They have information, and if anybody is thinking that this is going to stop, you are not saying the truth, because they own the creeks. They told me that, look, there's nothing anybody can do to stop this operation, except, of course, government comes up to formalize them, to recognize them, and now, of course, they will stop. For some of them who have been there and out, they will tell you that in a night, he can refine well over 7 trucks in a night. So that tells you the humongous nature of what they're doing. Right. So when it comes to formalizations, Dr. Okon, how do we start this formalization if it's a possibility? How possible is it, and what is the method, that you would advise governments to take to bring in these people into the value chain of oil processing in Nigeria?
I think Prof made the clear indications of what he said there. There are certain hydrocarbon fractions that are basically thrown away. And this is the problem of so-called artisanal refinery. That the hydrocarbon, hydrocarbon is a mixture of carbon and hydrogen in different linked chains, okay? So you heat it, you actually boil to break up these chains. And essentially what they are targeting is what is called distillates, okay? Which is the series of chains that includes your diesel and then your kerosene. They're referred to as middle distillate. So if you have a column, a tower where things, the carbon chains are broken and then they're segregated according to their density and so on, specific gravity and all that. So that's what happens. The problem with artisanal refinery is exactly that there are certain fractions, hydrocarbon fractions, that they simply dispose of. So there is nothing to when you say formalize, there is nothing to formalize. You can't formalize pollution and all of these activities. So by simply saying that if there is sophistication and as Prof is talking about technology, then you go to the formal route. You just simply get a license to formalize your activity, buy the crude, and they said there are, of course, suppliers of crude. Of course, those are the people who do the hot tapping of the pipelines. At the other day, about 120 hot taps on a particular line. So it's a sophisticated operation, and I understand what Prof is saying. I am simply saying there is nothing magical about the refining process. Of course, you can have modular refineries as simply what are called hydroskimming plants. You can advance that when you add FCCs and value addition units and so on and so forth. They become more sophisticated and take care of those fractions. There are 2,000 products, byproducts you can get from crude in a refining process. Nigeria cannot, it's not typical. We don't have refineries that deliver this because we don't have all those additional units, etc. So refining is a sophisticated operation. Let us not reduce it to kai and things like that, because there are certain specifications and standards. I wish I brought a picture of what a complex refinery looks like. But essentially, you start with the CDU, and then you have other units. What is a CDU? A crude distillation unit. So the artisanal refinery is simply that distillation unit. It doesn't have additional units to give you the value. And that is why there is a huge value loss. For a barrel of crude oil, premium crude oil, you will end up generating just the distillate only.
Yes,
and then you throw away the rest.
I'm not cutting you short, but they said that the fraction that you are talking about, that they are aware of it, that is dangerous to the environment, that they can deal with it if they have additional technology and the residue and the residue that they're required to. They say that look, they can produce all those chains, but the ones that could do, AGO and of course the diesel, but they know that the fraction is useful and they can deal with it if they have the residue to advance on it. I mean, because
I do not doubt the entrepreneurial ability of Nigerian people. I don't doubt it. Neither do I doubt their zeal and all that. I don't. And I can tell you, and I believe very much in some of what Prof was saying, that unemployment and issues are driving people to wherever they can earn a living. But I'm just simply saying that there is a route. The route is not artisanal refinery. It is modular refineries, for which I think there are quite a number of licenses that and there are innovative ways in which that can be made. But the primary thing is that people ought to be able to buy the crude at its international price, because there is somebody who is producing it. That is the point I'm trying to make. You are also, we want investors to come into the country. You do not want to say that I have found the oil, I'm producing it, and then there is a value chain that is, what do you say, that you want to formalize, but that value chain is based on the theft of my product.
Okay. Dr. Okon, we were told that the advent of modular refineries would be a game changer in terms of the supply of refined products. More particularly, AGO will be available, kerosene will be available. But how do you explain that despite the number of licenses that have been issued, only about 3 or 4 of those modular refineries are up and running, and a modular refinery isn't a complex refinery?
Well, it's again, how do you raise capital to do this? And I think NCDMB, through its the board and the funds, have assisted some refineries. NNPC is assisting some refineries, and I think in the next couple of years that we will have some of those come to fruition. But there are specific and very good terms, fiscal terms, for people who are interested in modular refineries, and I think that's. But generally, the refinery business is not as profitable as people think it is. It's only profitable if of course you're using stolen crude or not buying it at its premium price. So the migration towards more complex refineries is simply that the FCC units, which has the catalytic crackers and so on, those cost a lot of money to put into the system. And that's why refineries cost billions of dollars to build, because it's much more than just a simple distillation unit. Why? Okay. Because, those units cost a lot of money, and refineries also use a lot of catalysts to enhance some of those processes. For example, some of the other parts of the fractions that you're talking about can only come out if you use a lot of catalysts, etc., and catalytic regeneration and so on. So those processes are not cheap, and there are licenses that you need to get for them. That is really what makes a refinery very expensive. You have to go and get the licenses from top companies in the world, and they don't give you their license for free.
Okay, sir. Thank you much indeed. We'll come to you at the end of the break. Kingsley, you and I were on site, and when we had a similar conversation that had to do with the modular refinery, and we were informed that the one that is running in Imo State at the moment, they can only produce diesel, and only produce diesel. But we're wondering, is it just diesel? What about other byproducts like PMS and what have you?
The PMS is regulated price, so diesel is not regulated.
But now, why?
So you don't want to.
But diesel is scarce now and pretty expensive in most parts of the country.
Well, I know it's expensive, but scarce?
No, diesel is scarce.
Okay.
Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and LCCI and NASIMA are saying they can't access diesel, and where they are able to access it, the price is 700 naira per liter, and this is nearly a 300% jump in price from January.
All right, let's take a short break now. When we come back, we will continue with the conversation. You're on Good Morning Nigeria and the network service of the NTA. Don't go away.
Kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportation kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
The OCI Foundation International, with the support of the Nigerian Cancer Society, the Office of the Nigerian First Lady, the Future Assured Foundation, the First Ladies Against Cancer, the Sweet Home Humanitarian African Foundation, and other esteemed partners, present the Civic Breast mobile application, a game changer in the fight against breast and cervical cancer, the first of its kind anywhere in the world. Life-saving, unique, innovative, educative, interactive, engaging, and informative. Designed by a Nigerian for Nigerians, for everyone. Male, female, old, young, rich, poor. It sends customizable reminders for cervical cancer screening and breast self-examination. Top Nollywood star. It locates breast and cervical cancer service providers at discounts from any village, town, city, or state in Nigeria. It is free. Download it now on all iOS and Android devices. Just type in Civic Breast. It is free. Share it now using the share button on the app menu to friends, family, and work colleagues across all social media networks, including WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, emails, etc. It is free. A token from the OCI Foundation International to all Nigerians. We rise by lifting others.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The counsel of our fathers.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it run away from it.
Nigerian youth, let's build our nation together.
All right, you are welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's come back to Senator Itai Enang. Senator Itai Enang, of course, you've listened to the arguments and the contributions by the other guests. What is the clear pathway to formalizing the informal refiners in the petroleum sector?
The clear pathway, I'll soon return to it, please. But let me just make a little response to what Professor Akpufora said about that people can only get diesel. It's not correct. When the people refine, they now can get diesel, petrol, kerosene. And there are another set of off-takers who off-take the other part of the product which are not after the petrol and kerosene. We said in one of these programs the other day that after that there are people who take some of these products and then supply it to the use it for this construction industry, you know, the bitumen, you know, part of tar. Those are steel part. There are others of people who take other components of it, you know, and use it for cream. There are people who take other parts of it and use it for engine oil. They produce it.
Lubricants.
They're lubricants. So, as at now, most of the refining points have, excuse me, have stores, have storage, where after taking petrol, diesel, and kerosene, they store the other ones in their tanks, tanks, where the other people still come to take. So it is not correct that after refining, taking diesel, they can. The formal modular refineries, the one that they're talking about, I understand they produce diesel only. Now, but the other ones in the creek, which you call informal, is producing these three products. And we had a conversation and engagement with some of the security agencies. I will not be detailed about them today. They said to me, and they said at the conference, that any day that the artisanal refiners stop producing, there will be scarcity in this country. And let me say what little I know, that part of what seemed to have caused the initial crisis of scarcity of petroleum products in January or so was like sanctions that these boys were doing to Nigeria. I'm sorry to say this, but because the boys just went on break and were trying to relocate at that time to safer locations from Port Harcourt. It was sanctions for what happened in Port Harcourt. If you go to Port Harcourt now, and that enabled them to go and upscale more of what they were doing from the pole fire to the boiler and to the generator methods. Now, if the modular refinery, which you call formal, can only produce diesel, and yet we need diesel, kerosene, petrol, and other products, and these boys are able to produce it and supply to the country, and you still say that, look, these are illegal, let us say that we are in a state of emergency. We just have to engage and meet with them and integrate them in however we can do it. Now, there is this question of that the crude is stolen. The crude are not stolen by the boys who refine. There is a chain in this product, because I've had meetings and series of meetings with them, finding a solution to the Nigerian economy. It's not stolen, it's not taken by them. They are simply supplied. The class of persons who take the crude, who hot tap, is different. Those are, when it is hot tapped, part is given to these people and they pay. The chain of taking the crude from the point from the point to the refining point is what they pay for. They pay for the route. I know what I call the route. The prof was a little bit more direct on it, but I call it the route. They pay for the route, quote unquote. Then part of those who hot tap, they also, after hot tapping, they have a means of conveying it to the big vessels at the high sea. The big vessels at the high sea, Prof said they know it. He was at the conference. They know it. When a vessel comes to supply, for instance, refined petroleum product in the country, does that vessel go back empty? Does that vessel go back empty? And Nigeria, does that vessel that has brought in this go back empty? And is it only carrying regularly supplied petroleum product from the country? No. It does 1 or 2 or 3 trips, quote unquote, in the high sea. And some, after doing, they just say they are going back, they go to wait at the high sea. Either they get this crude before they move, or even before they get the crude and move, they will do 1 or 2 trips of taking the refined product, refined by these people, go to supply once or defined by the artisanal refiners, go and supply once or twice or thrice to people who have this license before they come back and take this illegal crude, which is what is called stolen crude, and then go back finally to other places. So Nigeria, we just have to come to the reality. I drive around, I saw in the last 5 days or so, we are having less people at the filling stations. There is refined petroleum product, but at what cost? In the next 3, 4, 5 months, will we after paying the subsidy we are paying, be able to pay, to give money to in the federation account to pay salaries in the states, in the local government, be able to service our obligations. In the next 5-7 months, will we be able to service our debt obligations? If we say when we make offer in the Euro bond and others, it is oversubscribed. It is oversubscribed in good faith because it is done. Part of it is targeting the economy of this country to collapse. So we just have to come back and think something is wrong. So we just need to, if you see somebody that has taken your property wrongly, let us go back to the wisdom of Yaradua. Most of these persons who are today the managers in the upstream, downstream, the midstream, in the authority and commissions, were officers who were involved in the negotiation on the amnesty program. The sabotage that is happening to the petroleum economy is huge. And I'm worried that we are worried that most of the oil majors are divesting from the country. 1, 2, 3 reasons. One, there is effort to decarbonize the world. Second, they are worried about the level of losses they are sustaining. And if they are divesting and selling this equipment and selling their stakes in this, unless we engage with the practitioners, can we sustain even the production? If we, after these people divest, they divest and give to people. Some of these persons have some slush funds, which they are investing as a means of perhaps engaging these funds, not because they have capacity to sustain those operations. Now, in the next few years, we may have even the collapse of the drilling sector, so that oil itself will not even flow. So there may not even be something to steal in the pipes. There may not even be something to refine illegally. So now that we still have all these windows, engage with them. My brother, the petroleum economist, Dr. Tim, was saying he was defining modular refineries. That modular refinery is the one that can produce petrol, diesel,